Greetings, year 34 slash year 33 MFL members. We have renewed for a 34th year on Sleeper. So that step is already covered, and so I will be doing a little year 33 recap as well as a little year 34 preview, if you will. So let's get into it. I feel like there's a lot to cover here, and I don't want to make this too terribly long, that's for sure. First things first, congratulations to the Hoopton Corn Jerkers. I have to say, it's weird, first of all, congratulating myself, and for a couple of reasons. The main one really being, man, this is, of all the years, this was not the year I felt this coming. But one of the more impressive playoff runs that has ever been experienced, I think, in the MFL. So I did pull up a little document here that has some historical data on it. That was Hoopton slash my 8th championship in 33 years, which is a pretty good ratio, I have to say. And there's been at least a couple of those in there that were unexpected, but again, none more unexpected than this year. For the record, Dan Nichols actually holds second place record. He has 5 championships, and then Harold and John are tied with 4, and Kevin and Steve are tied with 3. And we've only had 10 different champions out of 33 seasons. So it's time for some new blood, that's for sure. Speaking of records, most MFL Super Bowl appearances in 33 years. Harold had the record at 11. He has actually gone once with a separate franchise. There's a longer story behind that, but he's the only one to go with 2 different franchises. And then I just now hit my 11th. So Dan is close behind with 10, and John not too far back there with 8. So Steve and Kevin with 5. It's really interesting how we have a pretty, I think, parity rules in this league. I think especially this year we had pretty competitive league. I went from last place last year to first place this year. Our champion from last year ended up closer to the bottom this year, but we had the same second place team, Cleveland. So you can see here Ethan now sitting here with 2 Super Bowl appearances, and I have a feeling he might break through before too long. He's doing really well. So just know, again, this is my favorite league. I love this league, money or no money. I just really have the most fun with this one, thus the videos. So let's talk a little bit more about history here. I had to write some things down because I had so many things to get to. I have, first of all, something I've just wanted to kind of do. I've talked about it for a few weeks, but I think for the sake of history and documentation, and the idea that this, hopefully this YouTube channel will be around for a while and can be referred to by our posterity, I would like to induct a player into the Hoopton Corn Jerker Ring of Honor. If anybody ever wants to do this for their team, we can make that happen. I don't know. I feel like somewhere on Sleeper, we've probably got a place where we can enshrine these folks, and I'll see if I can find that. But the player, which again might be much to the chagrin of the San Antonio posse, that the Hoopton Corn Jerkers would enshrine as their first Ring of Honor member would be LaDainian Tomlinson. In fact, I had done a little research on this prior to this video, and he was actually instrumental in Hoopton's 2003 championship and 2005 championship. That was a pretty neat little run that Hoopton had there for a while in the early 2000s. Also, one of the more difficult personal periods for the Hoopton Corn Jerkers, if I may say so. Probably a very welcome distraction back in those days. But LaDainian Tomlinson did contribute to 2 championships for Hoopton. I think maybe the only player. I didn't keep track of all the rosters. I probably should have, but and we do have some historical documents floating around that again one of these days I'll put together a video on that. But I will throw out real quick in the year 2003. Pretty sure Hoopton traded for LaDainian Tomlinson. I don't remember the details of the trade. Maybe San Antonio does. But I acquired Tomlinson through a trade with San Antonio. And then I drafted. We used to have a little rookie draft. We were kind of ahead of our time, I got to be honest, with the rookie draft every year, which I still love in some of my dynasty leagues. We'll talk about that here shortly. But we drafted Clinton Portis. So in addition to trading for LaDainian Tomlinson, we drafted Clinton Portis, and then in the silent bidding, which we are all now familiar with, I put big money on Priest Holmes. And for one glorious season, I had Clinton Portis, Priest Holmes, and LaDainian Tomlinson, and we pretty much dominated that year. I'm pretty sure in '04, by the way, there were some very good people, members of our league who were very good at math, and they figured out if they all spread out their bids a little bit, there was no way I could keep all three, and they ended up making me having to get rid of someone, and I feel like it might have been Priest Holmes. I can't remember. It was not Tomlinson because I had him later, and I doubt it was Portis, but I don't know 100% how that worked out. I think maybe Leavenworth and Toledo would have some input on that, but and that's what I love about the salary cap. If this was a true dynasty league, that might have been a problem for a long time because those three were really good for a while. But as it was, we got 2 championships out of the LaDainian Tomlinson experience. And then I'm pretty sure after several years, I traded Tomlinson back to San Antonio. And I don't remember the details of that trade either. But he finished his career with the Jets, and he wasn't the player that he was when I had him, that's for sure. So LaDainian Tomlinson, Ring of Honor, Hoopton Corn Jerkers. If you see something, a note of some kind on that on Sleeper, that's what that's all about. I did scroll to the top of this document. I usually just keep kind of a running history on this document. It's a Google Doc. And so what I've already done is I have put together the nomination order. I guess this would be like the reverse of the nomination order, but the final standings, if you will, along with, as of now, the rookie money that will be carried over into year 34 for each team. So the first team that's going to nominate each round will be CDs because they finished 12th. Gotham City will go second because they finished 11th, and so on. And then Hoopton will throw out the last player of each round. And so just know that that's already been set up, and I haven't done, basically I've checked and I've rechecked the math on this, but I haven't really done my final look at it before I put it on Sleeper. So this is just on a document for now for my notes, but it will be put into the message chat, and it will be pinned so that if you ever hit that little thumbtack, you can go look at the pinned stuff. And I usually try to take stuff back out of there, so I keep that pretty neat as far as what's available to be seen on that. So that is the order. Again, congratulations to Cleveland. I really feel like you're going to break through at some point, and just gotta say, for Hoopton to literally in week 13, I guess it was, or I guess it was week 14 because we ended up 7-7. So it was week 14, probably the most disappointing week of the season for Hoopton. We had a chance to improve our seeding. We had a chance to really kind of enter with some momentum, and we just laid an egg. And then the very next week against West Canaan had the best week anyone has had on Sleeper since we've been on it for now 2 years. So very interesting how that worked out. So anyway, there are the rookie money points and as things stand right now. This would be money that you are awarded based upon the standings, money that you are awarded based upon any consolation bracket victories, money that you were awarded based upon any free agent acquisition budget that you still had left over. And it's pretty tight. I mean, we don't have anyone with a gigantic advantage this year, which is unusual. There's usually at least one team out there that's got 40 or so, but not so much going into next year. So I wanted to talk a little bit about, speaking of bidding and that sort of thing, I did a little research on some of the players that I thought were, sorry to be rattling and covering up cameras and that sort of thing. But I did a little research on players that I thought were bargains based upon our bidding processes and that sort of thing. And players that I thought were maybe kind of overpriced. And some of those have become pretty obvious, but I was a little shocked to see some of them as it panned out. So I'm going to bring up the sleeper because I also want to show you guys we don't, going into next year, need the spreadsheet. I'm pretty sure that's not going to be a requirement anymore. If you go to players and you go to search, and I'm just going to look at so let's just look at this first one, Josh Allen. There was some question really as far as should he have been paid as much as he was. So I just searched for Josh Allen in the Sleeper app on our league here, and then if you'll notice, he was kept, so it might say kept for $1 here on August 31st. That was, I have to go in and I have to fix all that, basically, because Sleeper doesn't quite understand what we're trying to do with our bidding and that sort of thing. So Connor kept Josh Allen for 146 points, which in the old days would have been $73 million. And for a quarterback, that is definitely, if you go back to our little history document here, for a quarterback, I mean, that's a bunch. That's the most anyone has ever paid a quarterback in our league, 146 points. But interestingly enough, we did a little trade in the season. I did a little video segment on this where Josh Allen was actually traded for Christian McCaffrey and Daniel Jones. Now, Daniel Jones ended up hurt, which is the risk you take with these trades. But the Christian McCaffrey side of it wasn't bad. It didn't end up being so bad. So I just have to say, I think the most valuable quarterback this year was Josh Allen. He led in points and really just kind of carried the day as it relates to fantasy football. And believe it or not, for my running back, I have Christian McCaffrey as the running back MVP. And it's interesting again that those guys were traded for each other, and then in the end, it didn't really work out, which is kind of unfortunate because I think it was kind of a high risk, high reward type move on both sides. They could have faced each other in the long run, and it could have worked out for one of them. And as it turned out, it didn't work out. So, but Christian McCaffrey was kept for 102, which again would be right around that 51 million range. And he was worth every penny. In fact, that's almost what I would consider to be a bargain, except for we have some players that were phenomenal bargains, like blow your mind bargains. So, but yeah, I would definitely put Allen and McCaffrey as MVPs at their position. As far as wide receivers go, I don't think there's much doubt who the MVP at wide receiver and that is Puka Nacua. And if you look down here at the history, he was franchised for 101, and that was prior to the same team, the Army, going out and spending money on a player we'll talk about later with the Giants. But interesting that at 101 there was some, and again, I don't really coach per se. I mean, there are several players in the league who will text me or ask me for, hey, what do you think of this trade? What do you think of this decision? And I generally will say what I think. I said what I thought about the trade, and in the end, still think the trade was a good idea. There was some agonizing over should Puka be franchised, and I just tell you now, and Army, correct me if I'm wrong. Honestly, I think since he has such a cool name, he was franchised. I think that was the deciding factor. So, as it turned out, again, 101 points, which is a little over $50 million back in the old days, completely worth it. Puka pretty much had to carry the Army. They started hot and just really faded at the end, but I don't think it was Puka's fault. So, wide receiver MVP Puka Nacua, and then we have a pretty clear-cut tight end MVP, and that is going to be Trey McBride. I feel like now that we've kind of gone through the positions, and by the way, I'm not going to do kicker or defense. I just don't care enough about kicker and defense. But Trey McBride was kept for $50 for 50 points, and then old days $25 million or so. Nobody really even came close at this position. At least as far as MVP goes, there's a player out there we're going to talk about, but the point I was about to make was I think some of these player MVP things we maybe could put some polls, because I can create a poll in Sleeper on the chat, and if we would like to vote on some of these things, I do feel like there are some rookie money incentives we could do, even if it's just a point or whatever. Just throw it at the owner who made that decision and had that player. So anyway, that would be my 4 MVPs, the ones at each position. How about some values here? I wanted to show you all some really good decisions by some of our owners here. First one being by the Cleveland Crashlets. I don't exactly know what a crashlet is, but they kept, and they have always kept, if I'm not mistaken, Matthew Stafford, like year to year, and every year he goes in with like his back is broken, or everyone thinks he's going to be done at some point, and man, the dude just crushes, and he kept him for $20. I think someone might have bid on him to get him up to 20, because if you'll notice here, back in 2024, he was kept for $1. So someone must have bid on him. But even at 20, man, that was quarterback bargain of the season. That is for sure. I do have an honorable mention here. I won't pull it up, but I think the Drake May experience is a great one. I have him in a couple of other leagues besides this one, and Drake May was a great bargain this year. And in a super flex, man, if you can get a good cheap quarterback, you're gonna come out ahead. I ended up with Trevor Lawrence, who I couldn't figure out all year long, but he figured it out for me at the end, and I just kept putting him in, and that worked out. For what it's worth, it also helped that Jordan Love got hurt, and so I kind of didn't have a choice. And usually when you put your guy in there because another guy's hurt, he'll lay an egg, but man, Lawrence just killed it. But I think the Drake May experience was pretty good. A lot of these owners are probably telling me to hush right now because they don't want any attention brought to these players so they can get them cheap next year. But I seriously doubt anyone's watching, and if they are, they're not going to remember anyway, right? So just a real quick note here on a bargain wide receiver. We do have some return yardage, and I really don't plan on lost my train of thought. Changing our point system. Now, if somebody wants to talk to me about it, you can, but no one has brought it up so far, and I really probably am not going to make any changes just on my own plan. But DK, who I think is a San Antonio posse, I'm apparently having trouble finding him. There he is. Yeah, he is a San Antonio posse. Picked up from waivers for free. And, I have no problem with this guy being the NFL record holder for all-purpose yardage for rookies, scoring a lot of points. I think that is awesome. I love the fact that helps. It kind of helps us out. I haven't gone looked to see how many times he was in San Antonio's lineup, but this is a little bit what this league is about. So there is your all-purpose yardage record holder for rookies, and he is definitely a best value for this year. I don't want to toot my own horn too much, but I'm going to throw a name out here, and this guy helped me through several leagues. Kenneth Gainwell. Again, I picked him up for $1 on September 9th, which would have been like after week 1. And I can guarantee you he filled in like every single time. It just seemed like I just had to have somebody to fill in a flex or fill in a running back spot. Man, this dude just consistently delivered. And I picked him up for $1. So that was pretty good. 2 more here we'll throw out there. Another running back. I'm a old school running back person, but we had a few weeks in there where Rico Dowdle was just crushing it. And look at this. Jeffrey Lucas keeps him for $3 and got every penny's worth out of that. In fact, I think there was even a week or 2 in there where maybe Dowdle was on the bench because the Quake NATOs were just stacked. But love to see Rico Dowdle killing it in Carolina. And for what it's worth, I paid big money for Chuba Hubbard. So it's kind of killing me in a sense, but I had the Gainwell experience to sort of balance that out. So always good to kind of work that waiver wire. Tight end, we didn't mention one yet, so I want to throw that out there. And I think this is going to be another Quake NATO cheer fest because, Harold Fannin delivered at tight end just week after week. And I had him in some other leagues, and he was awesome. And so, there were sometimes Quake NATOs ended up with a inefficient manager award kind of thing. And I think the problem, if you will, finger quotes, was, man, he was so deep. I don't know how he figured out who to start each week. He did lead our league in points, and he still had points on the bench. So I think also with Cleveland, I think Tulsa's time is coming. I'll try not to put the kiss of death, the commissioner's kiss of death on Tulsa next year, although it's kind of hard sometimes because, again, as San Antonio said, on paper, man, they were awesome. And for the record, anyway, the commissioner's kiss of death is actually not my invention. It is Harold Seitz' invention. He used to do that back in the day, and it was always kind of somebody had said, every time you pick me, I lose, and we started kind of tracking it. And I think maybe we picked Toledo one year when they won it. I might be totally making that up. I don't know. I can tell you now, 90-something% of the time when we pick, Harold or I pick, a team to win it. And in fact, next year I might just have Harold pick it, just for old time's sake. But they don't win it. It's the kiss of death, that's for sure. Harold Fannin, though, definitely not the kiss of death. That dude was awesome. Let's talk about some bad news. I probably should have done bad news first, but this was a player we were kind of talking about already, and I will just call him the bust of the year. You could consider maybe injury is not a good reason to consider someone a bust. But man, there was so much money spent on this player, and he's on injured reserve. In fact, this is kind of we might even call it the Malik Neighbors rule, because when I get to rule changes, we've got a couple of things we're going to talk about. 111 points spent and then released to waivers in October. And then, for what it's worth, re-signed for 5 by another team. In the history of the league, there's not really ever been a problem with that, but someone did bring up, what might be a problem someday. So we're going to talk a little bit about this, but this would be the cautionary tale, I think, if I may, as your champion and as your commissioner. Careful with spending that big money and making your team too top heavy. I do think about the time Malik Neighbors went down was about the time the Army's season started to sort of crumble. And you need those Gainwells, you need those Fannons, you need those Dowdles, you need those cheap guys that just kind of overachieve and make up for those guys that you might miss on, like Malik Neighbors. But he, I think, has won Bust of the Year, and yes, I would award some rookie money to the owner who wins Bust of the Year. So let's talk about that for year 34. It's not going to happen this year, but I'm down for that. A couple of other busts. And believe me, there's not a whole lot. I feel like we were all pretty good with our bidding this year. If I had to pick a second place, which apparently I didn't write it down as second place, but it says I'm looking at the money. There's 2 quarterbacks that I think probably need to be considered in Bust of the Year. This one, I remember when this player got signed, I was leaning toward giving the kiss of death to this team. Joe Burrow was gone most of the season. He did come back, but look at these point totals. He had a 6.5 point total in week 15. I mean, that's the playoffs. You can't have 6.5 points from one of your star quarterbacks. But for what it's worth, man, 80 points by Toledo, and they got Joe Burrow, and then for what it's worth, they also got a 100-point quarterback from me, Jared Goff. So they spent a little this year. At least in this case, it didn't exactly work out. The other one I will throw out there as a possible bust, and man, who knows what's coming up with this guy next year. I'm really glad I've avoided him in Dynasty. Kyler Murray. We paid 65 points by the Law Dogs on this guy, and man, I mean, I look at these point totals here. These are the season totals. Yeah, and then here, we didn't get anything out of Kyler Murray after week 5. So if I had to pick, just the shake your head bust of the year, it might be Kyler Murray. Because I'm not sure what's going on there, man. It's tough, and I feel like that cost Leavenworth a little bit this year, for sure. So that would be a little bit of MVP, best value, and busts of the year. I would talk a little bit about some possible rule changes. There's at least one that, if I were really to get into it, might even require like a separate video, but I'll at least touch on it here. Rule changes that were brought to me. Number 1, if you are going to drop a player, it seems as though it might make sense that you are not then allowed to pick them back up at a cheaper salary. Someone else can, but not you. And that's what happened here with Malik Neighbors. We had someone at 111. They decided to go ahead and cut him. For what it's worth, that does not affect the franchise salaries for next year or anything like that. That's already been calculated using that 111, and that doesn't change. What does change, though, is now that player being cut gives the next year that team a little cushion, a huge cushion, really, as it relates to salary cap space. The question was raised, well, should they get that salary cap cushion as well as, if they re-sign them cheaper, the right of first refusal? In other words, they get to match or not match bids that are coming in. That seems a little, on the one hand, maybe a little conflict of interest. If this were real life, it wouldn't work out that way, I think is what we're trying to get at. The other part of it is, if you're going to cut them and you're going to re-sign them, well, you already signed them, so it's like I mean, you did leave it open for anyone else who wants them, I guess, but I don't know, it's a glitch in the system, I think, is what we're looking at there, and because obviously no one's going to be able to spend 111 points in Fab to get that player. So I think if you do decide you want that cushion, that 111 points back, so to speak, that's fine. But I think someone else then gets the right of first refusal as far as the match or no match. I mean, right now he's signed for 5 with Kansas City, I think, off the waiver wire. Number one, before we get into silent bidding, everyone has to decide who they want to take off of IR. We used to just keep them on, but we don't do it anymore because the rosters are too big as it is. So you'll have to decide whether or not to put Malik Neighbors on your active roster, or you can drop him, put him in the live auction pool, and everyone will bid on him in the live auction. So anyway, I do think I like that rule. If someone has a problem with it, let me know, but I'll probably just implement it. But then there are enough of us that have been in this long enough that if just one or two say they don't like it, then I would consider that like a veto power that you guys have. Because I don't want to iron fist, dictatorship this thing. I want to do what I think is best for the league. And then if one or two people don't like it, then that's fine. We'll just back off from it. And it only comes up ever so often. It's just not that often. But that's the first rule change / addition that we may have to discuss. I did have someone come to me again, and this is something that's been discussed in the past. Rule change proposition number 2. We could make this into a full dynasty league. The reason we actually have an MFL dynasty league now is because there were at least a few people who did not want to do dynasty. So I do not intend to make this a dynasty league, because I already know there were at least a couple back in the day who didn't want to do it. If, however, there's enough interest and people want to, we can easily make this into a dynasty league. We can even make it in a dynasty league where we still get to do our bidding if we really want to. The biggest change that would come, I think, is if we make it dynasty, there's not really going to be much of a live auction, other than perhaps it'll be mostly rookies. You would keep almost your whole roster, if not all, depending on how we want to do that. But I will tell you this, the live auction always seems a little bit of a hassle because we try and do it close to the season. It's usually during Labor Day weekend. It goes a little long. It always just seems like it takes 2 hours, and I don't know why. And I can tell you, if we just do we could even do like a slow type auction where, you have a couple days to bid on each player over the course of a month. I don't know that I love that idea, but it is a possibility. Or you can just be like, I got my team, I'm happy. There's like maybe 2 rookies I want to look at. Once they're done, if I don't bid high enough or what are on in a live auction, I'm out, and that's fine. It would also introduce, if we do Dynasty, a taxi squad, which gets a little confusing for some, but it's basically a little side squad that you can have for your younger guys, and you can keep them for a while. So, for example, if I had a taxi squad, I would have had Trey Benson on there the last 2 years for sure. So, anyway, if you don't want to do Dynasty, we can look at just making like an unlimited, if everybody wants to just keep their whole roster at whatever salaries they have, we can do that. I feel like if that happens, we might need to do one more bidding round after the keepers are determined, which would change our time frame a little bit, because honestly, if you get a whole bunch of people with $1 or $2 salaries, that may or may not help our salary structure remain accurate, I guess is the best way to put that. But some discussion about Dynasty, Taxi Squad, or more keepers. I did add a few keepers this year based upon if you sign someone from another team. I kind of want to keep that, but if we just want to make it just more keepers, right now it's 12. we could just make it 15 if everybody wants to do that, or just keep it simple. And then some playoff situations, and this again is not just brought up by me, although I've mentioned it several times. Number one, we can start the playoffs in week 12 and do 2-week playoff matchups. It would involve some NFL bye weeks that may or may not work out for us. But if you know they're coming, maybe it's not that big a deal. Like if you went into the season knowing that might happen, it may not, matter so much. But you could do weeks 13 and 14 first round, 15 to 16. Weeks. Well, actually, you'd have to stop after week 11. So 12 and 13 would be round 1. 14, 15 would be round 2, and 16, 17 would be your Super Bowl. I love the 2-week matchups, and I would do this. The only reason I haven't done it is because it involves playoff games during NFL bye weeks, which may or may not be a good thing. There's a couple of ways we can do that, and I can get into more detail on that if we decide we want to make that change. The other one I have in my back pocket is a double elimination bracket, and it is complicated, and it also starts week 12. So you would basically have at least 4 teams after week 11 that are eliminated. But I can do a double elimination bracket, and that's the one that's going to take a whole other video to explain. I don't love it, but it is intriguing. It's a really cool way to look at it if we ever wanted to do it. But I am seriously considering doing everybody who is 6-5 or better after week 11 makes the playoffs. If you have 6 teams, then the top 2 get a bye. If you have 7 teams, then the top team gets a bye. And if you have 8 teams, then nobody gets a bye. But starting week 12, you start a 2-week matchup and you seed it out. 1 plays 8, 2 plays 7, and so forth. It would eliminate, I think, some of the hot hand and really reward those teams that have been scoring week to week. Now, I can tell you again, at the end of the season, my team was cruising. But if we actually had started week 12, my team would have laid an egg. Because I can tell you now, up to week 13, 14, my team kind of laid some pretty serious eggs. So, I don't know, it's kind of on how y'all want to look at it. I'm down for whatever. If you hate the idea that, a team gets 500 gets in, then let me know. I still feel like it makes sense, and it worked to my advantage this year, and that was not the intention, but that's the way it worked out. So anyway, I think I have probably left Kyler Murray's face up here a little too long, and have probably covered all the points that I wanted to make. If you have paid or put money toward next year, you should be marked paid in Sleeper. Please verify that. If you haven't been marked paid, and you should be, just let me know. And frankly, I'm probably not even going to argue about it. I'll just say fine, and I'll mark you paid. Because I love the league, and it's all good. If there was actually something else I was going to throw in there with that, but maybe I think that's it. So, yeah, just make sure you're marked paid, and then know that I've already scheduled the live auction. I've already scheduled the keeper deadline, which now I put 3 days before the draft instead of just 1. So I did move that up a little bit. Yeah, just be aware that I'm already excited for next year, and you guys stay safe out there, and I will see you when I see you.